When you really think about it, what was the number one thing that was missing from this year's E3? It wasn't big game reveals, because we definitely had those. It wasn't release dates. This E3, they actually gave us a bunch of very nice launch times. But I think the one thing that was missing that is very, very strange is we saw almost no gameplay. I mean, even though this is the Electronic Entertainment Expo and sort of the time where they're trying to get us the most hyped for upcoming projects, for the most part, almost everything that was on stages was pre-rendered cutscenes or just tiny teases instead of that raw, really nitty-gritty gameplay that a lot of us like. Which means that most of the attendees that ended up being there accidentally leaked some stuff later on, where they actually saw these demos and posted them on the internet. And today, we're going to talk about one that kind of worries me. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and a bunch of you over the course of the last 24 hours have been sending me that 13 minutes of Avengers gameplay. Now, obviously, I was initially very, very hyped for this. I'm a little bit of a superhero fanboy. I like stuff like Spider-Man a bunch. I think things like the old storylines of Iron Man, I think that stuff is stupendous. So I was initially extremely excited to see what the mysterious Avengers project would actually play like. But unfortunately, when it came time for the Square Enix press conference, they just basically showed us a movie that explained what the game would be, instead of just showing us some combat and action and some superhero uppercuts. Which is why I am glad that I watched that 13 minutes of gameplay, but additionally, I am a little bit disappointed. Before we get into that, I do real quickly want to mention that article that I've seen going around, which is apparently part of the reason that we saw almost no gameplay on the show floor, is because apparently a lot of game developers right now are afraid of basically getting accused of downgrades. Over the course of the last couple of years, there's been tons of times of people saying, oh man, another Ubisoft downgrade, where they show basically a comparison between what games look like during development versus what they look like at launch. Or think about something like EA's Anthem. Like when Anthem came out, everybody was saying the graphical fidelity during the trailers is completely different from the graphical fidelity at launch. And apparently, those are considered very bad for business. The people who actually create games are terrified of those kind of videos. So this year, to avoid it, they just didn't allow anybody to really record a gameplay itself, which obviously I am not very happy with. And now that I've seen the Avengers gameplay, I kind of understand why they're doing this. So during the initial reveal of the Avengers, basically what they did is they had this like really long cutscene that showed all the different heroes that are going to be part of the team and theoretically playable by us, all coming together to stop a bunch of crazy lunatics on a bridge trying to detonate a super bomb, and they end up crashing an Avengers helicarrier in the process. Well, it looks like the entire demo was about 15 minutes of that. Like, people were able to play this behind closed door, and somebody accidentally left their cell phone on and recorded the entire thing. So during it, you're playing as each of the different characters. Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Iron Man. And I think that each of them plays very, very different, which is good, but some of the characters look a little bit bizarre. I want to start with Black Widow because hers is definitely the weirdest looking. So obviously, she is a human. She's one of the only humans on the Avengers. But if you looked at the gameplay, she doesn't seem like she's human. She's able to jump about 800 feet. She flies like Spider-Man at times. She ends up riding on the back of this. There's like a bad guy who has like a jetpack, and she's riding on his back through the bridge and fighting him super casually, is thrown off his back about the size of a car accident, slams into the pavement, jumps up, gets into a really QTE heavy fist fight, and all of it was very strange. It seemed like this was basically a clip of a boss fight against Taskmaster. And it seems like Taskmaster is going to be one of the villains early on, and he ends up trying to set off a nuke in the middle of this town. So she's trying to beat him up, and during the fight, she's like basically losing at one point, and she just becomes invisible and instantly ends the boss encounter. Like, she just turns invisible, punches Taskmaster, next character. It's strange. Maybe that's supposed to be like a super ability, or maybe that's like an ultimate move that just got triggered at the end of the encounter. The ones I'm really worried about, though, is somebody like Iron Man and Thor. These are people who are basically gods. Like, Tony Stark is arguably a person, but he's inside of a suit that's, like, stronger than a tank, so he's obviously a pretty super dude, even if he doesn't technically have, like, supernatural abilities. During the demo, though, he doesn't really use much of them for creative good. He kind of just walks up and shoots people point blank in the face. Throughout the demo that I saw, he's only fighting humans as well, so it looks really weird to see random dudes walking up wearing, like, basically riot gear and nothing else, and being shot by laser beams over and over again by Iron Man. I mean, it kind of looks like a giant mass murder by a superhero, and it's a little bit jarring. In context, it'll probably make more sense, but one of my major issues isn't just storyline stuff, it's the fact that, in my opinion, everything looks a little bit weird. It all looks super scripted. It does sort of remind me of, like, you're just trying to, like, press X to shoot laser beam, press Y to shoot chest beam, press Y to shoot hand beams again. It looks so rigid that I'm not really into it. Nothing was weirder, though, than definitely the way Captain America was fighting. So in the clip I saw, Captain America jumps up into a helicarrier, he's trying to fight people off, and his shield is, like, deflecting blows and deflecting energy, and it looked so clunky. I mean, it looks like he pretty much controls like a car or something. Every time that Captain America moves, it is just so jarring and so not smooth. I think part of this is the fact that they decided to put him in some sort of body armor, so it looks really weird to see a guy with bulletproof skin waddling along like a penguin, but I'm nervous about it. The number one person that, of each of the different characters that I think looks the best is surprisingly the Hulk. The Incredible Hulk seems to have the most fluid animations. He has the most combat abilities, it looks like. I see him uppercutting cars. I see him smashing people together. He has all sorts of different things that seem to very much change the environment around him, and he can just obviously jump over stuff. I don't know if you've ever read any of the Incredible Hulk comics, but the Incredible Hulk can jump like 2 vertical miles. I mean, the dude can pretty much jump over any city in America, and he uses that occasionally during the demo to just skip over dudes. And I think that that looks great. I think that, funny enough, even though I'm not really a Hulk fan, I think that Hulk is probably going to be my favorite character to play as, just because he seems the most polished, at least in this early version of it. The person in the demo that I think is the weirdest overall, and the one that kind of just initially made me think, alright, this is a problem, is definitely Thor. The God of Thunder is really weird looking. Obviously, his armor looks like it has like 18 different robot nipples on it, which is a strong choice, and I understand that they're trying to differentiate themselves from the movies. They have to make this different. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they actually pay to use people's like faces and likenesses, so obviously they had to make Thor look different. But just getting beyond the cosmetic and looking at his combat itself, the dude just kind of shocks people and murders humans. I mean, there's not another way to slice that. I guess it's just that this is probably going to be a very gritty game. This is going to be the style of Marvel Adventure where they just kill everybody, like bad guys die, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I actually like gritty superhero stories. It's just a little bit jarring to see just such a crazy turn from the characters I know. Just watching Iron Man and all these people just murdering humans, it just takes me a bit to get used to. After playing over, like, I think I played like 85 hours now of Spider-Man on PS4, and he just goes to such lengths to never murder anybody. Even when he's beating up super bad guys like the Vulture and stuff, he makes it a point to not kill people. He'll tie you up, he'll hang you off a building, he'll throw you directly into a police department, but the point is that people don't die for their mistakes. And I guess in the Avengers project, everybody dies. You break the law, you get the hammer. Okay, well, these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts. Obviously, I can't show you this stuff because this video would get deleted, but let me just get my giant Thor hammer out and think about the fact that this game is still probably going to be pretty legit. The Avengers project is still a very long way away, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be great. I'm nervous about the fact that it's a games as a service, and I'm even more nervous that the game is going to be really clunky and not have a focused story, but right now, I remain optimistic. The developers are doing a ton of interviews. They've said that the faces and designs of characters are final, that is how they're going to look, but even still, I'm hoping that they get a lot of feedback. I've seen some people who played the demo say that it feels great even if it looks weird, but to me, just from what I saw, it's a bit of a mess. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. This is actually my fiance's hammer. She made this. She made this. I'm so impressed. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.